This PowerPoint presentation is on the autonomic nervous system. Now, I know we skipped the spinal cord, but you do have to know a little bit about the spinal cord um, to understand the autonomic nervous system because of anatomical differences between the two divisions. They come out of different parts of the central nervous system. If you do the connect module on the spinal cord, you should be able to learn the different divisions of the spinal cord, and that is from cervical, neck, thoracic, chest, lumbar, abdomen, and sacral pelvic area. Slide 2. This just points out the difference between somatic nervous system, sensations that we can perceive and motor functions that we control, versus the autonomic nervous system, which on the sensory side receives sensations that we do not perceive and sends out motor commands that we do not control. Slide 3 points out some anatomical differences between the somatic nervous system and an autonomic nervous system. There's a somatic sensory neuron on the left that detects stimuli that we can perceive of. And then on the motor side, the motor neuron is in brown. The somatic motor neuron sends signals to skeletal muscle that we can control. Whereas on the right, the autonomic nervous system, as the visceral and sensory neuron detects things that we cannot perceive, and then on the motor side, sends out information to muscles or glands that we do not control. And it's a little different on the motor side. And for the rest of the presentation, we'll be talking about the motor side of the autonomic nervous system. And on the motor side, there are usually two motor neurons involved on the autonomic nervous system versus only one in somatic. There's a so-called preganglionic motor neuron that is in brown to the right of the slide. And it will synapse upon the cell body of what's called a postganglionic motor neuron. And it will go out to the target organ and innervate the target organ that it innervates. So remember, a ganglion is a collection of cell bodies outside the central nervous system. And the cell bodies for these motor neurons, the cell body for the preganglionic motor neuron is always in the spinal cord. The ganglion for the postganglionic motor neuron is in a ganglion outside the central nervous system, usually in what's called a sympathetic chain ganglion or a ganglion near the target organ, depending upon the division we're talking about. Slide 4 reminds us that we're talking about a visceral motor system here that goes to visceral effectors, smooth and cardiac muscles, glands. And this system is always active 24/7. And it's involved with visceral reflexes to control blood pressure, so on and so forth. And we can get down to a functional division between these two parts of the autonomic nervous system. They have functional divisions called the sympathetic division, which prepares the body for action, and the parasympathetic division, which prepares the body for inaction. But it's important to realize that the preparing body for action doesn't mean that the sympathetic nervous system turns organ systems on, and the parasympathetic nervous system turns organ systems off. Every organ system is innervated by both divisions, and they turn on or turn off different systems depending upon what you're doing at that moment. So these divisions are operating 24/7. One may be operating more active than the other one, depending upon whether they're active or inactive, but they're always both operating. Slide 5. Here are some anatomical differences between these two systems. And this is why you need to know the different parts of the spinal cord and what's called cranial. Cranial comes from the brain. Spinal means it comes from the spinal cord. And with the parasympathetic division, it's often called a cranial sacral division because its preganglionic fibers or neurons, motor neurons, comes out of either the brain or the sacral division of the spinal cord, which is the most inferior part of the spinal cord. While the sympathetic division, its preganglionic motor neurons come out of either the thoracic region of the spinal cord or the lumbar region of the spinal cord. So it's often referred to as a thoracolumbar division. Slide 6. Again, it mentions that you have to remember that both divisions are always active. This is called autonomic tone. And the neural pathways, you always have two motor neurons, pre-ganglionic motor neuron and post-ganglionic motor neuron. And then we're also going to get into the neurotransmitters that are secreted by these motor neurons. Acetylcholine, or ACH, or norepinephrine, or NorE. And later on, we'll get into a different slide where we get more specific about things, but the parasympathetic nervous system only uses acetylcholine. The sympathetic nervous system usually uses norepinephrine, but it can use acetylcholine and actually nitric oxide sometimes. So in the bottom part of this slide, just reminds you that the sympathetic nervous system is sometimes referred to as thoracolumbar because it's spinal nerves, or the motor neurons from the preganglionic motor neurons leave from the thoracic or lumbar regions.